Good morning and welcome back. You're watching World News and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. In the early hours of Thursday morning, the Russian army attacked Ukrainian energy infrastructure with drones and missiles. The strikes halted operations at several gas production facilities in the Poltava region of Ukraine. The nationwide aid raid alert lasted from 5:20 a.m. to 6:40 a.m. local time. According to the Ukrainian military, missiles and drones were launched towards Pavlohrad, Poltava, Kremenchuk and Dnipro. In a statement released to social media, private energy operator DTEC announced that their oil and gas energy facilities have been hit in the strike. As a result, all operations at gas production sites in the Poltava region have been suspended. This is not the first Russian strike that targeted the company's facilities. On October 3rd, the Russian army fired 35 missiles at a gas production assets of Ukraine Naftogaz, which decreased Kyiv's domestic gas production by 60%. If everybody would do the same, we could really end this war, said the EU's top diplomat Kaja Kallas about the bloc's sanctions against Russia when asked by TVP World's Angela Skujins whether the United States needs to get serious about sanctioning the Kremlin.
If everybody would do what we have already done when it comes to sanctions and pressure on Russia, I think we would be in a different place. Really, that's why we call on all allies to do the same. We see, for example, that the sanctions on Shadow Fleet are really having a huge effect on Russia. We see their economy is not doing well, their inflation is very high, their national funds are almost completely depleted, and they don't get access to finance. So they are running into a place where they have to make some very difficult choices. So if everybody, all our like-minded partners would do the same, we could really end this war and end this killing.
On Wednesday, the U.S. president said that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi declared that his country will no longer purchase oil from Russia. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump also said that Vladimir Putin could make a settlement for peace with Ukraine.
This is a war that should have never started, but it's a war that Russia should have won in the first week, and they're going into the fourth year. And I want to see it stop. So I was not happy that India was buying oil. And he assured me today that they will not be buying oil from Russia. That's a big stop. Now I got to get China to do the same thing. And all we want from President Putin is stop this. Stop killing Ukrainians and stop killing Russians, because he's killing a lot of Russians. Again, it doesn't make him look good. It's a war that he should have won in 1 week, and he's now going into his fourth year. That does not make this big so-called war machine look good. But he could make a settlement. We're willing to settle. I thought we had a deal. The hatred of the two leaders is it's an obstacle.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said all is set for Friday's meeting with Donald Trump in the White House. The Ukrainian head of state expressed hope the get-together will be a stepping stone toward bringing Russian aggression to an end.
We have already prepared our part of the homework before the meeting with President Trump, the military part and our economic part. All the details, everything is there. The agenda of our meeting with the President of America is very meaningful, and I thank everyone who helps. This can really bring the end of the war closer. It is the United States that have the ability to have such global influence, and we are doing everything to ensure that others in the world are on the same side with us in this work.
Speaking on Wednesday in London, Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski reiterated the need for stronger sanctions against Russia. At the same time, the Polish official added that the European Union should go ahead with a proposed loan to Ukraine.
We need to do two things. We need to make sure that Ukraine has the resources to continue and also the weapons. And to do that, all we need to do is to do this proposed loan by the EU Commission, secured on the claim for reparations and ultimately on the frozen Russian assets. And on the other hand, we need to introduce new sanctions and tighten up the effectiveness of the already existing sanctions.
Speaking to TVP World, former U.S. Ambassador to Poland, Daniel Fried, said that the key to negotiating a lasting peace deal with Vladimir Putin may lie in Donald Trump exerting pressure on Russia. Having faced little significant pressure from the United States thus far, the Kremlin is still on the lookout for as many gains as possible.
The Russians have shown absolutely no signs of falling off their maximalist aims, which are to control all of Ukraine, to reduce it to the status of a satellite state like communist-era Poland. That's what the Russians want. However, if they don't win, and we can keep them from winning, Putin may be in more of a mood to negotiate. He's not going to negotiate until the U.S. shows its willingness to increase the pressure on Russia. And that, so far, the Trump administration has not done. But they're beginning to talk again about putting pressure on Russia. If they cross that line, if Trump makes the decision to increase the pressure on Russia, the odds go up that Putin will be forced to make a deal he hates, but a deal that will provide the basis not for a fair settlement or a just settlement, but possibly a lasting settlement.
On Wednesday, Portuguese Minister of Defense Nuno Melo announced that by the end of the year, his country will provide Ukraine with a total of €221 million in military aid. At the same time, the Portuguese official explained that given the expenses related to support of Ukraine, this amount cannot be increased until December this year.
The Portuguese defense minister said that Lisbon will provide Kyiv with €50 million under the Prioritized Ukraine Requirements List program. Through the mechanism launched in August, NATO countries finance the purchase of weapons and ammunition from US stocks, which are then sent to Ukraine. Nuno Melo added that by December this year, the Portuguese government will also transfer €10 million to support the British drone program. Explaining Portugal's largest expenditure on aid to Ukraine since 2022, Melo said that Kyiv's allies should all hurry to support the Ukrainian military, which urgently needs more weapons.
Thomas Rose, a close ally of U.S. President Donald Trump, has officially been sworn in as the new American ambassador to Poland, according to government officials. Trump nominated Rose for the position in February. Rose received the endorsement of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee last week and was officially appointed by the State Department on Tuesday. We congratulate Ambassador-designate Rose as he prepares to represent the U.S. President in strengthening the U.S.-Poland alliance with one of our closest and most trusted partners, the U.S. Embassy in Warsaw wrote on X. A longtime right-wing pundit and media executive, Rose served as editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post and held senior roles in American broadcasting. He also advised former Vice President Mike Pence and is known for his pro-Israeli stance. On Wednesday, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić admitted that 3 Russian nationals operated at a secret military training camp in Serbia, the same facility where dozens of Moldovan citizens were trained to destabilize Moldova's September parliamentary elections.
Vučić made the statement during a joint press conference with the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, in Belgrade. I cannot claim that Russian intelligence service was involved, but we have established the presence of 3 Russian citizens at the Sunčana Reka camp, Vučić said. According to authorities in Chisinau, Russian security services organized the camp, where dozens of Moldovan citizens learned destabilization tactics over a period of several months. 6 days before elections took place in Moldova, police arrested 74 people suspected of planning riots. At the same time, Serbian authorities detained 2 Serbian citizens for helping organize the operation.
Moldova now. Alexandru Munteanu has been nominated by the ruling pro-EU Party of Action and Solidarity to head the government. He is an economist who has spent the better part of the last 20 years in Ukraine.
Moldovan politics are rarely uneventful, but the nomination of a new Prime Minister is notable for the candidate's unusual professional background. Alexandru Munteanu, an economist, university professor and businessman, has reportedly been tapped by the pro-Europe PAS party to become Moldova's next Prime Minister. The news comes after the surprise resignation of Dorin Răzvan, who led PAS to victory in last September's parliamentary elections, a campaign marked by interference from Moscow.
I want to thank Mr. Alexandru Munteanu for accepting to come and lead the next government. His professional experience, his experience in growing people, being an economist, entrepreneur and investor, will bring exactly that new breath in the government and society that we need to develop the economy.
Montano has spent much of the last 20 years in Ukraine. Since 2007, he has played a leading role in the management of Dragon Capital, an investment firm based in the country's capital, Kyiv. He's also held senior positions at the Moldovan National Bank.
You know, he comes from the business sector and not from politics, as you clearly mentioned, or defense, reflecting actually the government's priority, which is economic growth. For the last year, we have an economic growth of 0.1%, which is not okay for a future EU member.
One of Montano's priorities on accepting a position will be to implement Moldova's new 2025-2035 military strategy, aimed at making the country's minuscule military viable in combat and aligned with NATO standards. Chisinau insists it will maintain its neutrality.
We want to Europeanize our army. We want to make it more suitable for the needs of the current situation on this hybrid front opened by Russia against us and against our partner states. And of course, this takes in account that the Republic of Moldova is a neutral country.
The military plans have drawn a predictable reaction from the Kremlin, with government spokesman Dmitry Peskov wanting Moldova not to suffer the same fate as Ukraine. For TVP World, Andrew Sweeney.
Finnish Foreign Minister Elina Valtonen has clashed with Georgian officials after she attended an anti-government protest in Tbilisi. Valtonen traveled to the country in her capacity as chair of the OSCE, an intergovernmental body focused on security, elections and human rights issues.
During her visit, the Finnish minister met with her Georgian counterpart. Later on Tuesday, she took to social media to post a video taken near a protest outside the parliament building, where she spoke in defense of freedom of speech and assembly. Valtonen was scheduled to meet with the Georgian Prime Minister, but the meeting was scrapped, with Tbilisi saying it was due to Valtonen's, quote, participation in an illegal rally. Georgia has been hit by a wave of demonstrations amid a rapid decline in democratic standards in the country.
You have generally free trade collapsing, economist Jakub Borowski said in an interview in TVP World's On the Record. He also indicated what priorities Poland and other Central and Eastern European countries should have amid shifts in the global economic landscape.
I think we are quite well insulated to this, in a sense that, first, our or the European Union's total exposure to the US is limited, fortunately. So even if they impose tariffs, the impact of what was imposed and was the result of the deal with the European Commission between Trump and the European Commission is limited. So it was calculated only, and the impact on the EU economy and Poland's economy indirectly was
so what is
limited.
The priority now?
I think the priority is to keep the EU working, in a sense that...
but that's a political priority, not an economic.
No, but this is an economic priority, in a sense that if you look at the whole world, you have tariffs there, you have tariffs there, you have generally the free trade collapsing, but still within the European Union, that free trade is still there. So, for instance, to give you an example that is, I think, highly relevant for quite a lot of businesses in Poland, we will have a new government in Czechia. Yes, and Mr. Babiš, as we know, is, I would say, quite reluctant towards various type of food businesses and food exporters in Poland. Yes, because they compete with Czech businesses there. So, how will he react? Whether he will try to sort of reduce that trade with non-tariff measures. This is something we have to...
So the internal cohesion of the EU.
The internal cohesion of the EU. This is something that we have to protect.
And so this would be all the latest news for now. Thank you very much for joining. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska, and I hope to see you back here on TVP World in just a moment for more news and features.